Hey guys, this is Circles Day 3, and today we're going to figure out for ourselves what pi is, and we are also going to figure out how to find circumference. So hopefully you have with you a set of notes and a piece of paper with 3 circles on it, a ruler, and a pencil. Okay, so we're going to take our ruler, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure the radius of each circle. And actually, instead of measuring the radius, we're actually going to just cross that out on your notes, and we're going to measure diameter because it's a lot easier. So on my notes, let me show you those up here. I crossed off radius and I wrote diameter. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to measure the center circle, and we're measuring it in centimeters, and it looks like the diameter is just a little bit over 6. It's probably about 6 1/3. Okay, so I'm going to write that up here. So let's see, 6.3 centimeters. Okay, now I want to measure across all 3 circles. So let's do that here. I'm going to measure across all 3. And it looks like it's about, oh, can't quite see it on the left there. Let me see if I can move that. There we go. It looks like it's about 19 centimeters. And I know on the screen here it looks like I've got the 0 over the line, but actually I don't. It's just the perspective of the webcam. So I'm going to say 19 centimeters, and let's go ahead and write that on our paper right here. And now we're going to measure the circumference of one circle. And to do that, I'm going to use a string. Okay, so I'm going to start over here on one side of the circle, measure all the way around. It's kind of hard to do. It's not going to be super accurate, but that's okay. I'm not looking for, the best accuracy here. We're just looking to prove a point, and I'll share with you what that is in just a second. Okay, so there's the circumference. And while I'm doing this, I just want to point out something, you guys. Circumference is the outside of the circle. And so I asked the question in math class today, if I'm measuring the outside of a circle, what would we call that if we were measuring a rectangle? And you guys said perimeter. And I said, yes, good job, because circumference is exactly the same as perimeter. It's just that when we measure a circle, we use the word circumference instead of perimeter. But you will encounter some word problems in this unit where you're going to measure the perimeter of a semicircle or a set of semicircles, and so you should just know that that means circumference. All right, so I've got my string all the way around, and I'm going to pinch it where I measured. Okay, so let's put that on our ruler, and we're going to measure that now. And guess what? The circumference is 19. Huh. Well, that's pretty cool. So let's write that over here. The circumference of one circle is 19 centimeters. Isn't that interesting? Okay, now we're going to compare our answers for 2 and 3. Let me see if I can get this angle a little bit better for you guys. Okay, so it says to compare your answers, and what did you notice? Well, check it out. The circumference of one circle is 19. The measurement across 3 circles is 19. Let's look up here at that diameter. That diameter is 6 and a little bit, right? Huh. It seems to me like circumference is about 3 times the diameter of a circle. Because if I were to multiply 6 times 3, I'd get 18, right? But it's really 6.3 times 3, so it's 18 plus 3/3, which is about 19, not quite, but pretty close. And when I measured across 3 circles, up here I got 19. When I measured the circumference, I got 19. So circumference must be about 3 times diameter. So let's go ahead and write that down on where it says compare your answers for 2 and 3. Okay, so I've got it written down there, and you're going to see why that's significant in just a second. But hopefully you might already have a hunch. Okay, so let's skip down on your notes to that portion with the chart. where it says, Jeff measured the diameter and the circumference of 3 circles, and he recorded the results as follows. Circle A had a diameter of 5 centimeters with a circumference of 15.7 centimeters. And when he divided, let me grab my pen here so I can show you this math. When he divided circumference by diameter, he got 3.14. Let's just make sure that works. So I have 15.7 centimeters for my circumference and 5 centimeters for my diameter. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Let's see, we have 0. Now we'll bring down the 7.
Sarah, would you please come to the front office?
And 5 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Let's bring down another 0. 5 goes into 24 times. Okay, so it was about 3.14. And then circle B said it looks like he had a circumference of 22 centimeters and a diameter of 7 centimeters. He divided the circumference by the diameter again and got 3.142. And if we divided the circumference of circle C by the diameter, 31.4 divided by 10, we don't even need to do that division because all we need to do is move the decimal place over, and he got 3.14 again. So check that out, you guys. Every time I divide the circumference of a circle by its diameter, I am always going to get 3.14. You guys, that's a big deal. It doesn't matter what circle in the world you look at. The circumference divided by the diameter is always going to be 3.14 and some more decimal places. But I think by now you know that 3.14 is pi. So that's huge. Pi is the same for any circle, and that's why it's called a constant. Pi is always 3.14. The fraction version of 3.14 is 22 over 7. We'll use that as well in our calculations. But we just figured out both what pi is and how to find the circumference of a circle, because now that we know that circumference divided by diameter is pi, all we have to do is multiply diameter by pi to find circumference. Let me show you why that works. Okay, so pi equals circumference over diameter, and let me just erase a little bit to clean up my PowerPoint here. So if we were to multiply both sides of this equation by the reciprocal of diameter so that we can get diameter out of there, and then I can cross cancel that, right? And now I'm left with circumference on that side, and I'm left with diameter times pi equals circumference. And if I just spin that around, circumference equals pi times diameter. So now that we know that pi is always the same for any circle, it's always going to be 3.14. If I know the diameter, I can find the circumference. So on your notes, you should write under letter 5 there, circumference divided by diameter is about 3.14, or 22 over 7, which is pi. And then on number 6, you should write circumference equals pi times diameter. All right, let's do a couple problems. So I'm going to skip down to number 5 on your notes. It says to find the diameter of a circle, find the circumference of a circle of diameter 70 centimeters. And it says to take 22.7 as pi. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write our formula. So circumference equals pi d. We just figured that out, didn't we? Then we're going to substitute in our values. If we're going to use 22.7, let's substitute that in for pi. So 22.7 times 70 centimeters. Okay, check this out. We can cross cancel, can't we? We can make that a 10 right there, and now we just have 22 times 10. And if we multiply 22 times 10, we get 220 centimeters. Awesome. Okay, let's back up. Let's go up to number 4. The reason I started with number 5 is because it was a diameter problem. But in number 4, you're given the radius of a wheel. So the radius of a wheel is 14 centimeters. We want to find its circumference. Now, we learned that yesterday that radius equals 1/2 of diameter, and diameter equals 2 radius, right? So we can use that knowledge and just plug that into our circumference formula. So instead of writing circumference equals pi d, I'm going to write circumference equals 2r, so there's my d right there, right? That equals diameter, times pi. And for some reason, we always usually end up writing this 2 pi r instead of 2r pi. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because pi is a constant and stands for a number. But 2r pi or 2 pi r, this is probably the way I'm going to end up writing it in front of you guys most of the time because that's how I've memorized it. But now let's go ahead and substitute in some values. So circumference equals 2 times 14, there's my radius, times 22 over 7, there's my pi. And now I can do some cross-canceling. I can cross-cancel the 7 and the 14. And now I'm left with 2 times 2, which is 4, times 22. And my circumference is going to equal, oops, there you go, is going to equal 88 centimeters. All right, exciting stuff, right? All right, go ahead and pause the video and do the rest of the problems on this page and also on the next page. Okay, number 3, you should have gotten that the circumference equals 157 centimeters. If you didn't, check to make sure that you use the right formula, so circumference equals 2 pi r, not pi d. Number 4 we did together, it was 88. Number 5 we did together, it was 220. Number 6, you needed to deal with some decimals, and you should have gotten 25.12 meters. Okay, on number 7, you just needed to look at the picture, and it showed you a picture of a circle with a diameter of, where is it? There you go, 49 centimeters. We're looking at that one right there. And so you should have gotten a circumference of 154 centimeters. Letter B on number 7, you got a circumference of 88 centimeters. And letter C, you should have gotten a circumference of 44 meters. On number 8, letter A, you should have gotten a circumference of 31.4 meters. B was 18.84 centimeters. And C was 37.68 meters. All right, you guys. Tomorrow we're going to be using this formula to find the circumference and the perimeter of harder things. So make sure you've memorized it, make sure you're solid on this, and have a good afternoon.